Welcome to Terra Talks, where we talk about all things real estate. In each episode, we'll tackle current trends and topics of interest, both locally and regionally. However or wherever you decide to tune in, you're not going to want to miss this.
Hi, I'm Chanel from Blue Sky Luxury, and we're here today with another segment of Terra Talks to delve into the topic of is property management a stress-free investment? So joining us today are two members from our property management department.
Hi, I'm Keisha. I have been with the company for 10 years and I work predominantly on the south.
Excellent.
I'm Anderson, and like Keisha, I'm following her. I've been with the company for 8 years.
I would imagine that given the number of years you both have in experience, property management may have changed a little over the years and kind of like evolved even. What does that look like for you, Keisha, on the South Coast?
When I first started, concierge was part of the property management department. So we were involved in meeting and greeting and while still trying to carry out our property management duties. Over the years, we have created a separate department just for doing those duties so we can focus more on our owners and their needs and taking care of their places.
Nice. And for you, Anderson?
Very, very similar to what Keisha said. We did lots, but we have now streamlined that. So we have a department doing a lot of the meet and greet and such like.
Okay.
So the main focus is really on the property, the properties and the owners.
Yeah. Well, this is a big task that we have. Would you say that in keeping with our topic, is property management a stress-free investment?
Most definitely is. There's a lot of things that owners don't take into consideration.
Right.
Keeping your insurances up to date, making sure you service your air conditioned units, paying all of your bills on time, land tax. There's a lot that goes into property management, which is just not only checking the physical property, but we have a lot on the back end. And we have quite a few departments that work with us that you'll be able to do like a full service of whatever the owner needs.
Yeah. So what does property management mean for you on the South End, Keisha?
Well, on the south is different from the west because we do not have permanent staff. We have temporary housekeepers who would come in and service once a week or as much as the owner would request if it's twice a week for their properties. And it means that we will need to be on site quite often and be more hands-on with a lot of things that we do and detailed in everything that we do.
And Anderson, what about you on the West Coast? I'm sure you have a larger portfolio to handle and bigger staff?
We do. So similar to the South Coast, we have a mixture of temporary staff, but we have more permanent staff on this side. We have a degree of different houses. So you have the flagships and such like bigger properties to manage. Sometimes you have up to about 5 to 6 staff members on one property.
Yeah.
Comparing to what Keisha said, she has one individual, smaller units who have to do several units throughout the day, whereas we have a group of people who stay with that one property all the time.
In keeping with it being a stress-free investment, and the evolution of property management, what are the different levels of property management? What would you say, Keisha?
Well, I would say we have something for everyone. We are pretty diverse in like owners' properties, midterm rentals, short-term rentals, long-term rentals, and admin properties. So it depends on what the owner wants. We can actually be a little bit more flexible to accommodate.
Okay. So you mean you can curtail your management style to suit the owner?
Not management style, but the management service that we offer. So if you have an owner who's living here, but they don't want to take care of any bills, just be someone to be on top of that, we can do that. If you want an owner who does their own rentals and they just need someone to take care of the guests when they're on island and take care of the property, we can also do that.
Is this what you call the blue standard?
Yes, it is.
Well, tell us a little bit more about the blue standard for those of us who don't know anything about it.
Yes, it is our go-to for everything. We encompass the whole maintenance, health and safety and things of that nature. All the things that an owner wouldn't want to get involved in, we will take care of it for you. Okay. So if you said, yes, you want to give us the management, we can take care of all of that for you.
Okay.
So annually, we we'll make sure your properties are checked. We'll make sure your properties are prepared for in case there's bad weather, hurricane or such like. We'll make sure that your staff, we're from a health and safety standpoint, your guests and staff are safe in the environment. There are no trip hazards or such like. And we always keep you informed.
I would imagine that you guys would have a more fine-tuned eye to look for certain things that an ordinary owner wouldn't be looking for, being, actually managing the property. We have owners out there that are doing their own thing through Airbnb. And for the most part, they're prepping the house to a certain point. But we, I'm sure, would delve deeper when it comes to actually getting that house ready.
We do. We take the stress off of you. Okay. So we will take the stress off you for checking, making sure that everything is up to standard or up to our blue standard. So from as little as making sure there's a fresh bar soap to making sure the entire property is in line. And there are no health and safety hazards or such like. There are no trip hazards.
Yeah.
Everything is presented in a really fine manner.
Give us an example of something that could go wrong.
Oh, something that can go wrong. We could have checked your AC unit this morning. You arrive this afternoon and find water in the bedroom.
Wow.
And there's no AC. Or we could lose internet access. And we know that's big. So the emphasis is to make sure that all these things are repaired in a timely manner and you are able to enjoy your holiday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
I can say that for the ACs, that was one of the biggest things for guests coming in. I had a situation where I personally turned on those ACs, walked away, and by the time the guests checked in a couple hours later,
wow.
2 had stopped working.
Wow.
It was a weekend. I had my technician out and he's there running cables because we could not figure out what happened with one of the ACs after installation. Turned out the board was bad. And this is 6:00 in the evening. He's threw a cable over the balcony just to connect it hardwired to the AC unit, to see if it's working. Then we would discover it was the board. We had to replace the whole AC after installing all day.
Wow.
So these things happen.
Yeah.
And we take that stress away from the owner because we're out and we're dealing with it.
But you're on the ground. And I mean, to be working in the evenings or weekends or 24 hours?
We do what we need to do. Yeah.
The thing is to make sure that whatever the challenges is fixed and it's a happy ending.
Yeah.
It's a happy ending.
Good. I'm glad.
It may mean some extra time.
Yeah.
It may mean some after hours for you and the technician. But at the end of the day, it's to have a happy ending.
Okay. Delving back into the topic of Blue Standard, tell us a little bit more about that.
All right, one of our Blue Standards is preventative maintenance. And some persons take that for granted, whether it be solar panel servicing, shutter servicing, which comes in very handy for hurricane season, grease trap cleaning. Some persons only know there's an issue when it starts coming up, but we try to keep a regular service level for all of these aspects of your home. Things that you might not even think about, well cleaning, well servicing. All of those are part of our preventative maintenance.
Because we were only thinking of, cutting the grass, making sure that the windows are cleaned,
It is certainly more involved than that.
Well, if that's the cutting the grass is the weekly or the routine stuff. But like Keisha said, the hurricane shutters, you will see them. They're nice and pretty, but we have never checked them. When we check them, we realize the hinges are going and such like. We also do all of the equipment. So to make sure that everything is serviced on an annual basis and everything is working, the gaskets are good on the refrigerators and that type of stuff. The ovens are heating at the right temperatures and, that the hinges are not loosed and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a full gamut of checks that needs to be done.
Yeah.
So we like to say we start from curbside, or the front gate and come right down to the end of the building.
And your portfolio would span from inland to properties that are on the beach. And I would imagine then even more so, the properties that are on the beach would be asking for more preventative maintenance than the others.
You are quite right in saying that. Beachfront properties are beautiful to look at, but they can be a kind of a headache to maintain. Not a bad headache if we do the maintenance on an annual basis.
Right.
you would have can appreciate we've had quite a bit of erosion along the beachfront properties and such like. So that has to be taken into consideration. Where we talk about the beach walls and the beach gates and the hinges and that type of stuff. When we talk about installing the right equipment. So let's take, for instance, a fan on the patio. We may just see a nice, pretty fan, we put it in, but it's not seer. So 6 months to a year for that fan. Whereas if we use the correct fan, you know, and that's where we come in. So the owner likes, I need X, and we say, look, X is beautiful, but it's not going to work. So we need to use Y instead.
Not practical.
And yes, we want it to be practical, but we also want it to last. Also.
Well, I'm glad that you had mentioned the hurricane shutters, because that was going to be my next topic to touch on. We have been very blessed over the years to have avoided major hurricanes. And Beryl and Point is our latest example. I'm so grateful that our properties were untouched, but our seas and our coastlines were, a bit affected. What would you say was your biggest challenge during the hurricane's time?
So if I can jump in here, from the west standpoint, and I know Keisha had a bit of it on the south side also. We had lots of beach erosion. We've lost some seawalls. We have lost lots of trees, and I mean large trees and such like. There is lots of work to be done, still to be done, to bring it back to some normalcy. We have had where properties that have lost all their sand, so some areas are just rocks. But preparing for the hurricane, we do this every year. So regardless if we have a major hurricane, we make sure that all our hurricane checks are done. So all the properties, all the generators are checked. All the properties where lanterns or lights are there. All the backup supplies are in the property before hurricane comes.
Water storage.
Not only water storage, but making sure that it works. We can have a hurricane and then realize it doesn't work. Same thing for generators. Just when we need it to cut in, it doesn't. And there's no explanation if you have gas in-house. Case in point, we've had it where we took over a new property. Hurricane Beryl's 2 or 3 days away, and we realized the day before, generator is not working.
Wow.
Good luck for us. We had power until 7 o'clock in the morning, but we lost power throughout the day. That means there was no water supply. So hence, you're dipping water from the storage tanks to make sure that, bathrooms can be flushed and that type of stuff. So it's important for us to manage our hurricane checklist on an annual basis. Likewise for Keisha, I'm sure she'll tell you a bit more on that on the south.
It's not only the physical aspect of managing for the hurricane, but we also need to make sure that our insurances are kept up to date. Because it's
important, very important.
Because something could happen, everything could be working, stuff still occurs, and then you have no insurance to fall back on. Wow. So that is also one of the things that we focus on before the hurricane season, so that we have all of that in place.
Nice.
And just to jump back in there with Keisha is, we have some owners who are a little hesitant sometimes when we need to increase an insurance premium or something of that. And can drag it on. So you want to make sure that you have insurance in place. It's a must. And that also speaks to one of our blue standards, ensuring that each property is insured.
I would also like to add on to that as well. We can actually help you out with the insurance. So the owners don't have to call around to find the best price.
Oh, definitely not.
That is something we have. We work with a broker, and they provide us one of the best packages I can say I've ever seen.
Nice. Thank
you.
So
it makes it easy. We take the stress away still. Even in time of a hurricane.
Tell us about some of the measures that a property manager goes through when they're preparing for a short-term rental.
Okay, so I do quite a few short-term rentals that on the south of the island. And weekly, I do a housekeeping roster. But it is flexible. So I also make sure that everything is working, and including the Wi-Fi. I go through to make sure everything is clean and in the way that the owner wants it to presented.
Mhm.
There are some owners who would tell me, well, Keisha, I know when you leave, you'll change around the throw cushions to make it how I want it. But if you're an owner who come in and say, well, I present my property this way, can you have it this way? That's where we come in to make sure it's always presented the way that they want it to.
Yeah. Because a lot of the properties are homes for the
Yes.
owners.
Yes.
So you have to still, get those things out of the way, make sure that their property is, put aside and kept safe.
It's all about meeting their expectations as well. What I personally tend to do is meet with every owner when I first take on a property. I find out what their likes are, what their dislikes are. I actually had an owner who does not like towel art. So as a standard, don't use towel art at all. You will never forget it if you don't use it. So when you meet with the owner, you have that one-on-one with them, you let them know, I am here to work for you, to present your property and how you want it to be presented. I am here to carry out as though you're the one here, and I correspond with you on daily, weekly, as much as it's needed in order to get the job done.
Awesome. Anderson, what does it look like?
If I can follow on from where Keisha left off, while we are meeting the owner's need, our Blue Standards jumps right back in there.
Yes,
Right.
definitely.
Because we want to make sure that each property is presented to a high standard and to the standard that we say, listen, if you hire us, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to deliver. So we want to make sure that standard. Like you said, on the West, it's very similar. Staffing, making sure everything is checked. Where everything means the entire house is checked. You're checking to make sure your linen is clean, it's crisp, there's no staining. You're making sure your pool records are up to date. You're making sure you may have to dip it yourself to check to make sure your pH balances are there. You go through it depending on the property. You can check your gardens. You check the lawns are cut. You check that you don't have any overgrown hedges or such like.
Right.
Your main gates, they're sliding the way they're supposed to slide, and we don't have it hanging off as soon as the car pulls in and that kind of stuff. If there's any signage in front of your property that is in good order, that is not, tattered and such like, your sign on your gate is not falling off and that type of stuff. So the whole idea is that from the time you turn into the property, you think, wow, this is beautiful, or this is nice. I want to stay here.
Good.
For your kitchens, you're going to make sure there's no chip or tarnish stuff in there, no chip plates and that kind of stuff. Because you want to present. We said, if you come to Blue Sky, we're going to present this way. So we want to make sure that we're presenting it in the best way.
Awesome. So what does it look like as a difference between a short-term rental and a long-term rental and even owner use?
Okay. Well, we do have all of those. So we have, and on the South and the West is very similar. We have short-term, we have long-term, we have owner use. We even categorize into flagships because there are some properties that we will manage the booking, but we don't manage the actual property. And in some of our flagship properties, and these are larger properties.
Right.
So for your short terms, and I'll let Keisha speak a little bit more on the short terms because she does that very often. But
Quite
for
often.
our short terms, there are short rentals, 5 to 7 days. Again, there are always the checks, the balances, and make sure that everything is done. Likewise, the arrival check, we do a departure check. Because to make sure that everything is still in order, you have not damaged anything, and I don't really need to charge you anything, and we can leave you leaving feeling very happy. You have the owner use, whereas the house is maintained, or the villas are maintained, but the owner will use this. His, for the owner or their friends. Again, the setup, the arrival process is the same. You want to make sure now that everything is working, everything is in pristine condition for your owner when he or she and their guests arrive. We have like our flagship properties. We have quite a few flagship properties. And again, the word flagship, we can't say flagship and then present anyhow. So really you have to make sure that the stops are pulled out there and, everything is to standard and in crisp and it's crisp.
Keisha.
Well, with regards to the short term, we need to make sure everything is in there for the arrival process, whether it be teas, coffees, toilet paper, which is a big one, paper towel, soap. So we make sure that everything is there and presented for the guests. We make sure everything is working, and we still need to maintain the standards that we would normally do as well. So AC servicing, dryer vent servicing, which a lot of persons tend to forget as well. The dishwashers, replacing the refrigerator water filter. That could actually affect taste and everything. So we do a lot when it comes to the short term, and we have to do it on a quicker basis because it's a quicker turnover. With regards to long-term properties, we still have some of the same things like pest control, grease trap cleaning. So all of these fall under our Blue standards and how we try to maintain what the owner wants in line with what Blue Sky Luxury wants, so that we can always provide that stress-free service.
Okay, so we're on the topic now of emergencies, and being on hand, the always working property manager, 24 hours. What are some of the emergencies you've encountered?
Well, I actually had someone who slipped in a bathtub and had a fracture for their collarbone. I assisted by calling the ambulance to get them down to the FMH emergency. And I stayed with them just to make sure that they're getting through with all the necessary paperwork and providing contact details if they need it.
Nice.
So that was my emergency.
Anderson?
You said 24 hours. Well, yes, it can be 24 hours sometimes. I think we're always on call as much as we don't think we are. We've had, me personally, have had on the West Coast, we've had fire at a unit, at a complex, that was about midnight, between midnight and 1 a.m. So you were up, attended to that. Had to be back there by 6 a.m. in the morning to meet with the fire marshals and such like. When we talk about emergencies, we can talk about downtime. We talk about so many things because the unit had to be off for about roughly 6 months, 6 to 8 months. That came in with insurance came in and such like. But there had to be a lot done to make sure that the unit is back to a livable standard. Again, we have gone through the displacement of moving arrivals or moving people who were booked for that unit coming in there. We've gone through where the owner can no longer come to that unit. We've gone through things where you had to replace furniture and such like. So emergencies, there are always emergencies. We can have emergencies where there's a health condition with one of our guests sometimes. And as much as we cannot fix the problem, we are there to lend the support to the person at this point. Because yes, we know we're going to take you to the medical center. They're going to fix you and such like. But being a foreigner at a foreign location and an emergency, you're a little panic. So therefore, we are kind of the reassuring arm for you.
What are the not so urgent emergencies?
Well, there can be many. We say they're not so urgent, but they're urgent. Like having an apple stuck down a toilet and we had to change a whole toilet bowl.
Yes.
Or you having a backup in a villa and to realize that is some tree roots that have you in trouble.
Wow.
Yes, there will take time to investigate and such like, but they're become emergencies because most of the time these things happen when guests are present or in the villa, in resident. So you're in trouble.
Well, I remember a time where, everything was set. I had guests arriving in 5 days and walking to water meeting me at the front door of a condominium complex.
Wow.
The kitchen roof had collapsed. The apartment above, the fridge malfunctioned and spilled water all night.
Wow.
We had not only to get that place cleaned up, but because it was water there in the space, we had to deal with treatment for mold, taking off all the cupboards, putting it back, redoing the ceiling in less than 5 days before the next guest arrived.
Wow.
Well, that was in 5 days, but I was covering for another manager. We were going to hand a new property over to a client, and it was a Sunday, and I got a call at midday to say we had a flood. Thinking a flood, we had some water, we'll mop up, not realizing that I had water flowing from the ceiling in all areas. Client was arriving by 5 in the afternoon, so we have spent the entire afternoon trying to get that house to a livable condition for that afternoon. It took some time, but we were able to do it. We had to call on all our resources. Again, That's why in property management, there are lots of relationship building
Yes.
because there are persons that you have to call at the weirdest hour to say, look, we need help, and to come out and resolve any challenge.
Well, it's funny that you say that because you also are getting support.
Mm-hmm.
So you're offering the support for the owners,
Yes.
but
Yeah, we
someone
need
is
we
also
do need
offering
the
support
we need
to
the
you.
support, and we have a good team where we call everyone, or you even put in the chat, help. We need help. It's Sunday afternoon, and everybody starts sending you who to call, and they actually make the calls for you. So, despite the question that you asked earlier, is it a stress-free investment? I would say yes. We'll take the stress on for you.
So if you were to take away one thing from the duties of being a property manager, what would it be?
Well, I would say I love building relationships, problem solving, and interacting with my peers. They make the job easier. But it's all about making sure that we provide a service that we are hired to provide. We are knowledgeable, we are innovative, we're ahead of the curve, and we always speak to the owner, keep them abreast of what's going on, and let them know how you can, increase their revenue if it's a revenue generating property, or how we can tailor whatever to them. So for me, I like the mix of everything.
Nice.
Like you just said, it's a mix. It's a big mix. We aim to deliver a high level of service. We want to make sure our owners, we want to make sure our guests, we want to make sure they're all happy. So the takeaways from it, again, would be, look, if you came to us, we say to you, we are going to deliver X or Y, we're going to deliver it. We're going to make it hassle-free for you. But you're going to be rest assured that, your property are in good hands. We're going to take good care of it. We, like you said, we are dependable.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that everything is standardized. I know we can be a little anal at times. Keisha would say yes to that. But it's all in a good place. What we look at is that any new problem that arises, we see it as a new challenge, one that we can grow on, one that we can thrive from, and we aim to deliver.
And on that note, we thank you for joining us today on our Terra Talks with our two knowledgeable property managers, Anderson and Keisha. Thank you for joining us. If you are ready to book our services, please contact us at experts@blueskyluxury.com. Bye-bye for now.